Well, time for another design team meeting. We've got a couple new archetypes for crossover breakers to get out, so let's get thinking. Anyone got any ideas? Well, sir, I had some ideas. It's a Cyberse archetype, so we have to theme it at least a little bit around computers and the internet. We've done viruses before, right? Yeah, we've done viruses before. What if we deviated away from the ones and zeros, Matrix NCIS style viruses, and leaned more into the playful nature of early computer worms like the I Love You virus? What if it was malware themed? I like it, but it needs a hook, some sort of sub-theme like how we did Wicked with Snake Eyes. Maybe another beloved children's character? Alice in Wonderland, perhaps? I love it. The playfulness of early 2000s malware bouncing off the playfulness of Alice in Wonderland characters. You're a genius! And of course, they'd also be sexy ladies, right? Yes, I mean, and of course they'd be sexy anime ladies, we all right? know it's Yeah, sexy ladies, they have to be sexy
yeah.
ladies. And
Good afternoon, Jank enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. If you watched last week's YCS coverage, you'd be forgiven for thinking that Ryzeal is the only game in town. But beneath those 18 materials and an aggregator under the detonator, another deck had a fantastic showing. Taking a ton of top spots is the deck I imagine to be the second best in the metagame, Maliss.
How very curious.
So here's the list from Jeff Jones' top profile. Christ alive, 2 Jeff Jones on Jank recently, and now this, I gotta start paying him royalties. As always, I'll give you a background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is a one-stop shop for all things Yu-Gi-Oh! They're responsible for the pack opener that makes series like Progression possible. They've got strategy articles for those looking to flesh out their fundamentals. They're the most complete repository of deck lists and results from regionals and YCSs online, and they've also got cube and draft infrastructure that's finally seeing use now that Yu-Gi-Oh! Players have come to the light of Limited. There's a good chance that any Yu-Gi-Oh! Content you see on YouTube has Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck's many tendrils somewhere within its DNA. So why not go to the source and improve your game, draft with friends, or just see what 11-year-olds are playing in their Blue Eyes decks this month? Head on over to YGOPRODECK.com. Now back to the video. With that, let's mess with Maliss. Maliss is an archetype of Cyberse monsters that are sexy anime ladies, references to malware, and send-ups to characters from the Alice in Wonderland series. God, sometimes Yu-Gi-Oh! Just hits. Each monster has a similar effect. If they're banished, you can pay a trivial amount of life points to special summon them. Then you're link locked for the remainder of the turn. White Rabbit specifically enables you to set one of their on-theme traps from your deck, which range from extension to interruption. So, just to recap, these Cyberse monsters allow you to spam link summons and set trap cards from deck, and oh my god, it's just math mech. It's math mech. They're even making Neo Tempest Terahertz. That said, a math mech that isn't immediately killed by Mr. Magnamut is pretty compelling. And its myriad of one-card combos means you can shove in the 23 non-engine that have become pretty standard as of late. Worth noting, however, is that Format All-Stars Kashtira perform double duty in this list. If you like, you can play a bad package of Dracosac and Cherubini to start your plays with the Fenrir, provided your opponent has a grand total of 0 hand traps. Or, importantly, Unicorn is instrumental to playing around both Nibiru and Lancia. The end result is a list that, under the right conditions, can play through just about anything, and has more than enough slots to make up any bad matchups through the non-engine you're all but guaranteed to get. So with that, let's get into the card by card. First up, the Maliss monsters. In the main deck, we've got 3 copies of P. Dormouse, which says that monsters that point to this one can't be destroyed by card effects, and during your main phase, you can activate this effect, banish a Maliss from your deck. For the rest of the turn, Maliss monsters you control gain 600 attack. Here's a shared effect. If this card is banished, you can pay 300, special it, and you can't special from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except link monsters. Those last 2 effects are hard once. Don't get excited about triggering this a million times in one turn. White Rabbit is extremely expensive, but it's not hard to see why. You take no battle damage from battles involving Maliss Link monsters that point to this card, and when this card is normal or special summoned, you can set a Maliss trap from your deck with a different name than the cards in your graveyard. If this card is banished, you can pay 300 life points, special summon it, and you are link locked. Let's take a quick detour to the trap cards. First up is GWC06. You can activate this card the turn it was set by banishing a face-up Maliss monster, special one of your Maliss monsters that is banished during your graveyard. Then if you control a Maliss Link monster, gain life points equal to the original attack of that special summoned monster. I'm sure you are all looking at the trivial life point payments and were immediately afraid this deck was going to lose in time. Don't worry. Next up is Maliss CMTP07. You can activate this card the turn it was set by banishing a face-up Maliss monster you control. Add a Maliss from your deck to your hand. Then if you control a Maliss link, you can banish a card on the field. And finally, TB11, which says, again, you can activate this card the turn it was set by banishing a Maliss monster you control, special a Maliss from your deck, or if your opponent controls 3 or more cards, special a Maliss link from your extra deck instead, and for the rest of this turn, that summoned monster can't attack and neither player can activate its effects. Functionally, White Rabbit is extension just like Dormouse by getting the right trap card. I'm sure you've also realized that we finally solved the trap card problem by just making them spells. Our last Maliss monster is Chessy Cat. Any monster destroyed by battle with a Maliss Link monster is banished instead. Very funny, they have their own little rat pier. And during your main phase, you can banish a Maliss card from your hand, then draw 2 cards. This is almost always going to be online, frequently with a second copy of the field spell, and after you have gone through a significant amount of your Malisses, meaning you are very likely to draw into your non-engine. If this card is banished, you can pay 300, special summon it, and you're link locked. Finally, we've got Dotscaper, which is integral to a specific number of combos that the deck plays, probably not cuttable, and Code of Soul, which is... It's hard to really justify this card. I guess the way I would do it is by saying this card can be sent from Neo Tempest Terahertz and enables you to play the deck in a specific way. If you do not find that way compelling, this is a card you can shave. If you control a Link monster, you can special this from your hand. There's a Salamangreat Reincarnation Link effect. And then during the opponent's main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard to Link summon a Link 3 or higher Cyberse Link monster. After that, we've got our Maliss field spell, Maliss and Underground. When activated, it allows you to banish a Maliss card from your hand, deck, or graveyard, functionally just a Roto with extra steps. And while 3 or more of your Maliss traps with different names are banished, your Link monsters get very large. If you control a Maliss Link monster, your opponent's monsters can only target Maliss Link monsters for attacks, which means that your SPs are going to be very protected. We've got a Gold Sark because it is also a starter and a terraforming, and now it's time for the non-engine, baby. 3 Fualas, 3 Ash Blossom, 3 Droll and Lockbird, 2 Druisworm and a Magnamut, the Unicorn, Fenrir, Birth, and Wraithsoth, double triple Tactics Talents, double Forbidden Droplet, and triple Infinite Impermanence. Kashtira Unicorn deserves special attention because it just does so much for this strategy. There's a significant amount of lines that people have labbed around Nibiru that require Link Spider, but as long as you have Unicorn, you actually don't ever need to commit to anything that badly. The extra bodies are enough that you can set up interruptions on your opponent's turn, provided you've gone through any amount of your mainline combo. And importantly, Kashtira Unicorn is one of the very few things you can do under Lancia. It's pretty common knowledge that Lancia specifically domes this deck, but as long as you've found the Kashtira stuff, you can decide to either get to SP on your opponent's turn, with Unicorn getting the 2 hand rips that people are complaining about on Twitter, or you can get all the way to Whitebinder on your opponent's turn in order to summon 2 Maliss monsters back and have one of the traps up. Either way is 2 points of interaction, just a matchup-dependent decision on what you actually want to do. In the extra, we have Heart's Cryptor, which, as a quick effect, can target a banished Maliss card, shuffle it into the deck, and banish a card on the field. This can't be negated, provided this points to another monster, and if this card is banished, you can pay 9 to special summon it and double its attack, giving it to the next one. We've got 1 copy of Red Ransom, which, while it points to a monster, swaps the attack and defense of all effect monsters your opponent controls. This is not only instrumental in screwing up opponents trying to go to the battle phase, it also means that you are able to put a board up post Nibiru in which Red Ransom is linked to a SP Little Knight. The SP can't be walked over because of the effect of Maliss and Underground, and the Nibiru can't walk over anything anyway because it has 600 attack. Once per turn, if this card is special summoned, you can add a Maliss spell from your deck to your hand, and if banished, you can pay 900 to special summon it, then banish a Cyberse from your deck. This is a little backwards because obviously the spell that you want to be searching, Maliss and Underground, is also the spell you want to be starting with, but keep in mind that you can always banish additional copies off of Chessy Cat to trade them in for non-engine anyway. Finally, we've got Whitebinder, which if special summoned can target up to 3 cards in any graveyard, banish them, and then during the main phase can set a Maliss trap from your deck or graveyard. If banished, can pay 900, special summon this card, and if you do, draw a card. After that, we've got Link Decoder, Firewall Dragon Neo Tempest Terahertz. It's 2 targets to Save Worm and Aggregator. Notably, Aggregator isn't super necessary. You could get away without it. You know, to Save Worm and Code of Soul is still pretty good. I think Jeff Jones said if he were cutting this card, he would have replaced it with something more generic. We've got Link Spider, which he admits is a mistake. This is specifically in here to beat lines in which Nibiru comes down, but the deck already has native lines that play around Nibiru, especially if you found Kashtira Unicorn, so it is actually a type of insulation that doesn't necessarily matter and would be better served with like a different monster in the extra. Splash Mage, Access Code Talker, Link Haribo, IP Masquerena, SP Little Knight, and our TCG exclusive Haggard Lizardos, which, wow, has really been putting in work in a lot of strategies of late. The important part of this one is you can banish a monster from your graveyard with 2,000 or less attack. I mean, wow, an extender for this deck. In the side, we've got 3-dimensional barrier, 2 triple tactics thrust, and ultimate slayer, which is a lot of the reason why aggregator is in here in the first place. Dominus impulse, called by the grave, dimension shifter for anything that's not Ryziel or Maliss, and 3 artifact Lancia for the mirror. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Yubel. I really like Yubel, this format. I think for people who don't want to dip their toes into crossover breakers, this is a great backup plan. We've opened pretty good, but our opponents opened Fualos. Remember that deck profile in which I talked about playing Droll and Lockbird to beat Fualos and realized that it didn't work at all because I was playing Snake Eyes? Well, guess what? In this deck, it actually does. We're going to the draw phase, and our opponent's going to fire the Fualos in standby, meaning we don't get the free triple tack, but no biggie. We can go Malice and Underground for Dormouse, one of these scenarios in which its specific type of special summoning is so good. We'll banish White Rabbit, bring it back, and then we'll activate the effect of the White Rabbit. That's going to grab us a set copy of TB11. We can link off for a Splash Mage, they'll draw a card, and time for you to stop drawing entirely. Splash Mage will bring back this White Rabbit, and we'll go into Red Ransom. Next, we'll activate TB11, banishing the Red Ransom for a copy of Chessy Cat. We will activate the effect of the Red Ransom in order to summon itself back, and then afterwards we can banish a copy of Dotscaper. On banish, Dotscaper summons itself, so we can make a Link Decoder, and then go into a White Binder. From here, White Binder can go ahead and target 2 cards. We'll bring back this Link Decoder and banish the other 2, getting TB11 and Chessy Cat into the banish zone before activating Chessy Cat's effect to summon itself back. Finally, we'll go into GWC06, activate the effect of our Neo Tempest Terahertz, send it to Save Worm, and then set a couple of cards. They will infip the Neo Tempest Terahertz. We will negate it with the Decave Worm, which allows us to send a Code of Soul for later in the turn. They'll begin with a tract that's probably worth a GWC06. We will summon back the White Binder, then at resolution, they will send a copy of the Fiendsmith Lorry to the graveyard, which we can banish with the effect of White Binder on the same chain. Next, we'll go Red Ransom and White Rabbit, both of which were banished as a result of our White Binder's effect, bringing both back and banishing a copy of Dormouse. We'll go for the effect of the Dormouse and the White Rabbit and the Red Ransom in order to bring back the Dormouse and grab ourselves another copy of the Field Spell and set a live copy of MTP07. Our opponent will go into Phantom of Yubel in set 2. That's going to be met with an Infinite Impermanence, and then we'll go Code of Soul in order to make a Heart's Cryptor. They'll pass back to us. We'll activate Heart's Cryptor in order to shuffle back a trap and get one of those back row before going for MTP07 to get the other back row as well. We know we can already beat everything on field, so that's the only thing we're worried about. We'll draw for turn, and this should be a hop, skip, and a jump to lethal. Infinite Impermanence on the 0-attack monster. Let's go ahead for the big Neo Tempest Terahertz Blammo. Our second matchup is up against Runic, and I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't think this matchup is particularly likely. I just have this in here because something really funny happens. You can see that we've opened no engine. 23 non-engine in deck seems pretty likely, to be honest. They're going to go for a Magical Meltdown. We'll go for the Ash Blossom. They're going to chain Flashing Fire into a Hugin. Here feeling a little more empowered on the Hugin because they no longer have to fear Ash. They're going to send the duplicate to the graveyard, go Fountain, activate Slumber, targeting Hugin, and banishing 3 off the top of our deck. What do you know? One of those 3 is a Dormouse. So we will go ahead and trigger the effect of the Dormouse, summoning it to our side of the field. Next, they're going to go Terraforming in order to grab another copy of Fountain and pass turn. We will draw for turn, and this should do it, hilariously. We'll go Dormouse. They're going to go Freezing Curses in order to negate the Dormouse, but we can set the Dormouse with the Forbidden Droplet in order to get around it. Next, we will go for the effect of the White Rabbit in the Banish Zone. They will Fountain for 1, trying to find something that's probably worth our Ash Blossom. And as we get the White Rabbit back, we can activate the on-field effect in order to set a copy of TB11. Let's normal summon this copy of Code of Soul to go into Splash Mage. We'll activate the effect of the Splash Mage, summoning back this White Rabbit, and linking off for a Red Ransom. Red Ransom here is going to grab us the Field Spell, and then we can fire the Field Spell in order to banish a copy of Chessy Cat. Chessy Cat here will be summoned to our side of the field for a low cost of only 300 life points, and then we'll activate Access Code Talker, triggering the effect of Red Ransom. That's right, the Access Code banishes our extension in this deck. We'll go for Dormouse that activate Access Code again. This should be lethal. They'll go Hugin, shuffle it back into the deck. Let's not prolong this. Just go to the battle phase and get in for lethal. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on, well, what exactly are they on? They're on Fiendsmith Ryziel, though you wouldn't know from the opener. You're just going to have to take my word for it. They're going first, and our hand looks pretty good. They're going to go Fiendsmith Tract in order to grab a Lurry. They're going to pitch the Lurry and then summon it from their graveyard. We'll activate Drone Lockbird. They will go from Lurry into a copy of Requiem, then activate the effect of the Requiem, which we will Ash Blossom. They'll go Lacrima, unfortunately the punish for this specific line. They'll Lacrima send a copy of the Fiendsmith to the graveyard, then Requiem attach to the Lacrima to make a Necro Quip. From here, they're going to go Engraver, shuffle one back, and summon it, and they don't make a rank 6. Horrifying. That means we're going to have to contend with at least one hand trap that they are trying to cash in for another piece of non-engine. We're going to go Dormouse into an Infip. From this position, we are going to activate Malice and Underground in order to banish a White Rabbit, then activate the effect of the White Rabbit summoning itself and the effect of the White Rabbit on field. That meets a Ghost Ogre, which is not the worst thing in the world. TB11 could still theoretically be cashed in. We'll activate it before they get the draw just in case to go into Chessy Cat. From here, we're going to activate the effect of the Dormouse. We will summon it. Then afterwards, they will activate the effect of the Lacrima in order to summon back the Requiem. They'll go Requiem. I guess that's probably worth an Ash Blossom from us. Then afterwards, we're going to go into a Splash Mage. Splash Mage here is going to summon out the Dormouse, and down comes the Nibiru. Oh man, what a rough way to go out. We're going to set one and pass, hope for the best, but they find a Ryziel, and that might be all she wrote. They'll go Fiendsmith for Fiendsmith's Tract for a Lurry. They'll pitch the Lurry, activate the Lurry to summon it, and yuck. Fiendsmith Engraver can shuffle back this copy of the Requiem, which they will then summon using it to go into a second copy of Lacrima. Lacrima can send a Fiendsmith in Paradise here, and then Requiem can equip to the Engraver using its effect in order to get rid of the big-ass token. From here, they can normal summon a Sword Ryziel, and we will concede. So it's time for game 2, and oh, this is dire. 3 pieces of non-engine and 2 starters versus our 0 pieces of engine. Okay, well, I guess we'll begin with a copy of Cashier Unicorn into the Fuwalos. At least they're not getting any draws. We'll activate the effect of the Cashier Unicorn. We're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Birth. It does have some utility against Tract and the like. We'll pass back to our opponent. They will draw for turn. It's a Bonfire. They're going to begin with an Ice Ryziel. That's probably worth an Infinite Impermanence. Afterwards, they are going to go ahead and fire off, unsurprisingly, this Bonfire in order to grab an Ext. We will Drollin Lockbird here, and they're going to go for the Ext, sending a Mirror Logic Aggregator targeting the Unicorn. No big deal. They're going to go Detonator, activate the effect of the Detonator, attaching the Mirror Logic Aggregator, and refuse to commit beyond this point. Thankfully, we do have a pretty compelling out to the Detonator. We're going to go for the Birth. That's going to be met with a Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and then we'll banish that light for a Druis Worm. We're going to go to the battle phase, walk Druis Worm into the Detonator, then activate the effect and damage to send that sucker to the graveyard. And now in main phase 2, we can activate Malice and Underground, an effect that really can't be Ash Blossomed. We're going to go Dormouse effect in order to banish this copy of White Rabbit effect to summon it to our side of the field, then activate its effect in order to set a copy of MTP-07. We'll go Splash Mage, bring back this copy of White Rabbit, then afterwards we can go into a Red Ransom. Red Ransom, we will go ahead and grab a copy of Malice and Underground, obviously not worth the Ash Blossom from our opponent, nor is the TB11. We'll bring back the Red Ransom into a Dotscaper here, and then afterwards we'll normal summon a Chessy Cat, activate the effect, and draw 2. We're going to go Link Decoder into White Binder effect, and Link Decoder effect as well. We will summon it, banish a couple more, trigger the effect of the Chessy Cat, and summon it to our side of the field. From here we can go White Binder in order to set a GWC06, and go Neo Tempest Terahertz, whose effect we will use to send it to Save Worm before passing back to our opponent. They will draw for turn. They're going to begin with a copy of Sword. They'll activate the effect of the Sword. We will Imperm, and that's probably all she wrote. They will go ahead and activate Bonfire. We will negate with the Save Worm, and they'll scoop them up. So it's time for that all-important Game 3, and looks like the Fuwalos is on the other foot. We're going to try and get them with it instead of firing it in the draw phase. They're going to go for Tract, bring out Lurry. We'll Fuwalos here. Unfortunately, that does play a little bit into Thrust, which you can see they do have. They're going to fire it here to get a copy of Sanctum. Oh, God. Okay. They'll pass back to us. We draw for turn. Okay, that's good enough. Dominus Impulse will negate the Sanctum, and we get to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Here today. We're going to begin with a copy of Gold Sarcophagus, which, remember, is a starter. We will go for Dormouse's effect, paying a meager 3 to summon it to our side of the field and activate the effect in order to banish a White Rabbit. White Rabbit comes to our side of the field. We will go ahead and set a trap. The one we select here is, of course, the TB11. We'll go into a Linkaribo, at which point they will Fiendsmith in Paradise to send a copy of the Fiendsmith, which we will banish with the Bestial Magnamut. We'll activate the effect of the Magnamut on field, then we'll go into a Red Ransom effect in order to grab the field spell, and then we'll activate the TB11, banishing the Red Ransom for a Chessy Cat. From here, we'll activate Red Ransom, bringing it back to our side of the field, and then we will go ahead and banish a White Rabbit before making a Splash Mage. Splash Mage here can bring back the Chessy Cat, and we can make a White Binder. White Binder effect in order to banish 3, including the Tract, and triggering the effect of the Chessy Cat to summon it to our side of the field, at which point White Binder will enable us to set a GWC06. Let's go Access Code Talker. We will target the White Binder, then just start eating away at the board, using the effect of the White Binder on Banish in order to bring itself back. That should be all she wrote. We will go ahead and go to the battle phase and get in for just about over lethal. So we're back with the deck, and I really like it. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, The Maliss cards put a really powerful spin on former Cyberse combo decks. They have full access to generics like Access Code, Splash Mage, and Neo Tempest Terahertz for extra interrupts or going second tools, but their own archetype also contains multiple interrupts in the form of non-targeting banishes from the MTP Trap and Cryptor, graveyard banishes from White Binder, attack switching from Red Ransom, and the forced attack redirection from the field spell. 2, the engine is so small, you can utilize more than half of the deck for hand traps, breakers, and even supplementary engines as you wish. And 3, of course, you're a banish deck. It's fun to talk about this in the context of the metagame, how it's going to stack up against the Mirror and Ryziel, but it's important to remember you get to play Shifter. If you ever sit across the table from Rogue, Shifter barely impacts you at all, so you can just deploy it against them. And the cons. 1, while the deck does play through low-impact hand traps like Ash Blossom, especially targeted hand traps like Veiler or Imperm or Mourner, it does have a problem with some higher-impact hand traps like Nibiru and Fuelos. Now, the deck does have multiple lines to navigate both of these, but they do impact your end board enough that they can be a pain to deal with. 2, one of the low-impact hand traps also can really screw up your board. If you choose to do the GWC end board with Terahertz, a Ghost Bell can shut down the Maliss side of the deck, which misses you 4 interrupts and follow-up. Be prepared for that card to get very popular very quickly. And 3, of course, Lancia. If you only see Engine, the deck does get hard countered by Lancia. All your cards get their biggest benefits from banishing, so being cut off from banishes turns off all your extension and forces you to draw Kashtira or die. Overall, the deck looks like it's already pretty good, and it's only going to get better when combined with the adding Nister support coming out in Alliance Insight in the later parts of 2025.
So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are made possible by, and occasionally suggested by, my patrons, some of whom have paid a hefty sum to be mentioned at the end of this video. Let's do that now. Thanks so much to About 99 Donuts, Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Ally, Brett Henry, Cool Name, Darkmaster Zork, Derpin Dragon, DJ Elefante, FPS Lord Derp, John Piet, Killer Croc 467, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Lockstone, Luis Hernandez, Lullaby of Souls, Master of Faster, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolci, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Nacho Gonzalez, Naxi Juto, Nebula Yu-Gi-Oh!, Project Mercury, Rohan Doge, Rose Lapine, Soul, Troy Says By Erasure Is Gay, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, and Yuki. Couldn't have done it without you.